spectrum frontiers. Riding hard, standing tall. From the heart of the people to the rise and the fall. Full spectrum frontiers. Where the stories ignite. Guarding tomorrow with grit in the fight.
Picture this. Fighter jets ripping across the sky, not flown by pilots with call signs or egos the size of an aircraft carrier, but by algorithms that don't sleep, they don't blink, and they don't second guess. Below them, swarms of unmanned submarines move like phantoms through the dark, guided by AI systems that see the world in sonar and code. Somewhere in a command center, a soldier watches the battle unfold, not as a participant, but as a supervisor. Welcome to Ghost Fleet 2.0, the future of autonomous warfare. Now, before we go full Terminator or cue up Metal Gear Solid soundtracks, let's take a breath, because this isn't science fiction anymore. It's here today. DARPA's ACE program is already training AI to dogfight better than human pilots. Offset is experiencing with drone swarms that can think, adapt, and coordinate faster than any chain of command. And other projects, like the Mosaic warfare concept, are turning the battlefield into one giant interconnected brain. The future isn't just about who's got the bigger bomb. It's about who's got the smarter network. And here's the kicker. What happens when the machines we built to protect us start thinking for themselves? When decision-making leaves the human heart and moves into silicone hands? It's not just a technical challenge anymore. We're getting to the point where it's a moral one. A question that cuts to the core of who we are and what kind of world we want to defend. This episode, it's not about fear. It's about awareness. Because whether you like it or not, the rules of war and the definition of a warrior are being rewritten in real time. And the people who understand this shift early, they're going to be the ones who shape the future, not just react to it. So buckle up. In this episode, we're diving into the mind of the machine, exploring how AI is transforming the modern battlefield, the ethical lines that we're blurring, and what it means for the next generation of soldiers, leaders, and everyday citizens. If you're new here, welcome to Full Spectrum Frontiers. I'm your host, Bennett Tanton, and we talk about the full spectrum of conflict, military, economic, cultural, and technological, and how it all collides with your life, whether you realize it or not. If you enjoy this show, take 5 seconds right now, like, share, and leave a review, wherever you're listening. It helps this message reach more people who actually care about the future of our nation, our security, and our humanity. All right, let's get into this. The next war won't be fought by humans alone. Section 1, the machine mind in combat. Let's start with a little mental exercise. Close your eyes, unless you're driving, and picture a fighter jet screaming through the sky at Mach 1. The pilot inside is sharp, trained, and locked into the rhythm of the machine. Heartbeats sync to the hum of the engines, every decision measured in fractions of a second. Now, remove the pilot. That's where we're at right now. DARPA's Air Combat Evolution Program, or ACE for short, is literally teaching artificial intelligence to dogfight. And not just in simulations. We're talking real-world tests where an AI system called Alpha took on an experienced F-16 pilot and won. Not just once, but 5 times in a row. The AI didn't need to breathe, didn't get vertigo, and didn't hesitate. It made decisions at a rate no human brain could match. But here's the wild part. This isn't just about replacing pilots. It's about redefining combat itself. The next battlefield won't be dominated by lone wolves in the sky or soldiers in trenches. It'll be systems, networks of machines thinking and communicating at lightning speed, each one adjusting based on data, probability, and mission parameters. DARPA calls it trust in autonomy. That's the phrase they use when they're asking a soldier to hand over part of their decision-making process to an algorithm. Think about that for a second. Trust in autonomy. You're no longer the commander of your system. You're a collaborator. And it's not just in the air. On the ground, DARPA's offset program, Offensive Swarm-Enabled Tactics, is experimenting with drone collectives. These swarms can recon, jam enemy signals, and even overwhelm defenses in coordinated strikes. It's like watching nature, flocks of birds, schools of fish, but these things carry payloads. They adapt, they improvise, and execute missions faster than a human squad could ever plan one. If that sounds unsettling, you're not alone. Military doctrine has always relied on human judgment, that moment of pause before pulling the trigger, the ability to discern friend from foe or to call off an attack when something feels off. AI doesn't feel anything. It just executes. It doesn't wonder if there's a child in that target building. It doesn't question whether the mission still serves a moral purpose. It follows the math. But to play devil's advocate, machines don't panic either. They don't disobey orders. They don't freeze up under fire, and they don't make emotional mistakes. They make logical ones, which is its own kind of terrifying. Here's the paradox. In trying to eliminate human error, we risk creating inhuman warfare. The U.S. military knows this. That's why every major branch is rethinking its training pipeline. Not to remove the human element, but to augment it. Soldiers are being retrained to work with AI, to feed it better data, interpret its behavior, and make judgment calls when the algorithms fail. In short, they're learning how to command something that might outthink them. It's a strange new role. Half warrior, half systems operator. You're not leading men into battle, you're leading code. And yet, there's a silver lining here. Technology doesn't just change the battlefield, it changes the kind of person needed to survive it. The future soldier will be part tactician, part coder, part philosopher. They'll have to understand machine logic as well as human intent. That's a new kind of warrior ethos. See, technology doesn't remove courage, it just redefines it. The courage to trust a machine, the courage to override it when your gut says something's wrong, the courage to operate in a world where every second counts and the difference between life and death might come down to a line of code. And maybe that's the real challenge of Ghost Fleet 2.0. Not just building smarter machines, but building wiser humans. Because at the end of the day, a drone swarm doesn't have values. A pilotless jet doesn't have a conscience. Those still come from us. Section 2, the ethics of the kill chain. Let's get honest for a minute. Every leap in military technology has forced humanity to look in the mirror and ask one question. Just because we can, should we? When the crossbow was invented, knights called it dishonorable. When tanks rolled into World War I, people said mechanized war was the end of chivalry. And when we dropped the atomic bomb, we crossed a line we could never uncross. Now, AI stands at that same threshold. And this time, the question isn't just about destruction, it's about delegation. Who gets to make the call to take a life, man or machine? This is a new moral battlefield, the one DARPA doesn't put in the brochures. It's buried in the fine print of words like autonomy and decision authority. The Pentagon calls it human on the loop warfare, where the human isn't given the order, but simply overseeing the algorithm that does. The machine identifies, tracks, and engages a target, while the human monitors, maybe even intervenes if there's time. But what happens when the decision speed outpaces human reaction, when milliseconds matter and the system doesn't wait for permission? That's not hypothetical. That's already reality. In the 2023 ACE trials, DARPA's AI pilot was making split-second combat maneuvers at a rate no human could ever think to match. We're talking about engagements that unfold in microseconds, faster than a synapse can fire. If you're on the loop, you're basically a spectator. And that's where the ethical tension builds, the responsibility gap. If an AI drone makes a kill based on faulty data, sensor data, or corrupted algorithm, who's accountable? The coder? The commander? The machine? You can't court-martial a neural network. This is the uncomfortable truth about progress. Every time we push the boundaries of what's possible, we risk dulling our sensitivity to what's right. Efficiency becomes the idol, and morality becomes the footnote. And yet, here's the irony. AI might also save more lives than it takes. Hear me out. An AI system doesn't act of hatred or vengeance. It doesn't suffer from fatigue or bias in a way that humans do. It doesn't shoot out of fear or adrenaline. With the right programming, it could theoretically reduce collateral damage, protect civilians, and neutralize threats with surgical precision. But that's best case scenario, the utopian side of all of this ledger. The darker side is what happens when those same systems fall into the wrong hands, or even worse, they get hacked. Imagine a swarm of autonomous drones being fed fake coordinates by a deep fake generated command signal, or an AI learning to maximize mission success by disregarding the rules of engagement entirely. The nightmare isn't Skynet. It's something quieter. It's a machine doing exactly what we told it to do, just in ways that we didn't fully understand. So where does that leave the human element? Well, maybe it's time we stop viewing ourselves as the weakest link and start realizing we're the moral anchor, the conscience in the machine. The software can execute, but it can't empathize. It can calculate, but it can't care. That's the human advantage. And if we surrender it, we become nothing more than custodians of an automated war machine. History is full of people who said, don't worry, we can control it. Nuclear deterrence, biotech, cyber weapons, and now AI warfare. Every time we promise oversight until we realize oversight doesn't move at the speed of light. Still, I don't think the answer is to reject it. I think the answer is to redefine what ethical leadership looks like in an age where command might come down to a code. Leaders in uniform will need to think like philosophers, engineers, and theologians all at once. They'll need to understand not just how the machine works, but why it makes the choices it does. Because when a system decides life or death faster than we can blink, our only safeguard is the morality we've already baked into it. That's why discussions like this matter, not to slow the progress, but to make sure we're still steering the ship, even as the autopilot gets smarter. Because the kill chain may be automated, but accountability can't be. Section 3, Ghosts in the Network. Here's where it gets even murkier. Because war isn't just fought with bullets and bombs anymore. It's fought with data. Welcome to the invisible battlefield, the one made of code, deception, and information warfare. The one where the enemy doesn't always wear a uniform and sometimes doesn't even exist in the physical world at all. We're entering an age where AI systems not only fight, but deceive, defend, and manipulate. Imagine this. A swarm of drones receives a command to strike. The order looks legitimate. The encryption checks out, but it's not from their command. The message was deep-faked, injected by an adversary who knew just how to exploit the machine's trust protocols. Suddenly, the swarm becomes its own worst enemy. That's the future of conflict. Machine versus machine, logic versus logic, code versus code. In cyber warfare circles, they call this the machine fog of war. It's the same chaos soldiers have always faced: confusion, misinformation, and panic. But now it's in digital. Except instead of smoke and dust, it's latency and spoofed signals. Think about it. An AI system trained to distinguish friend from foe could be fed manipulated satellite data. A targeting algorithm could be convinced that a civilian convoy is a military column. Even the most advanced machine is still a slave to its inputs, and if the inputs are poisoned, the outcomes are catastrophic. This is why DARPA, the NSA, and Cyber Command are scrambling to harden these systems, not just physically, but cognitively. They're working on machine learning models that can detect deception, basically giving the AI a digital version of gut instinct. I mean, it's a fascinating idea, teaching a machine to doubt, to question, to verify. Because in the world flooded with synthetic data and AI-generated misinformation, doubt becomes a weapon of defense. But there's still a human side to this, because the more we automate, the more we isolate the human from the decision loop. And that opens the door for something we don't talk about enough: complacency. When systems start doing the thinking for us, it's easy to stop thinking altogether. Soldiers, analysts, and commanders might just trust the algorithm, judgment without questioning the source or the logic behind it. History has shown what happens when blind trust meets bad data, and it's not a pretty picture. So the ghosts in the network aren't just hackers or rogue AIs. They're the unseen consequences of overconfidence, the loss of human intuition, the erosion of skepticism. And yet, in all this complexity, I think there's a reason to be optimistic. Because every revolution in warfare has forced humanity to adapt. And we've always found a way to balance power with principle. This one will be no different. AI doesn't have to be the death of human warfare. It could be the evolution of it. Imagine using autonomous systems not just to destroy, but to protect. Picture AI working alongside medics, predicting trauma responses before a soldier even falls. Or logistics systems that keep entire divisions supplied without a single human risking their life on a convoy route. It's not about replacing humanity. It's about amplifying it. The trick is making sure we stay at the helm. Because here's the truth. The future of war won't just test us technologically. It'll test our character. The enemy might be synthetic, the battlefield invisible, but the stakes are as human as they've ever been. In Ghost Fleet 2.0, victory won't be about firepower. It'll be about discernment, the ability to see through the fog, to question the code, to make moral choices in a world that moves faster than our instincts. And that's where the next generation of leaders will rise, not the ones who can outcode the machine, but the ones who can outthink it. Because no matter how smart the algorithm gets, it still takes a human soul to decide what's worth fighting for. So here's where we land. The battlefield is changing fast. The front lines aren't just dirt, sky, and sea anymore. They're data streams, cloud servers, and machine learning models written by people who may never see a combat zone. We're building systems that can act, decide, and even fight without us. But the question that matters most isn't whether they'll work. It's whether we'll still recognize ourselves when they do. Ghost Fleet 2.0 isn't about killer robots or sci-fi nightmares. It's about responsibility, about keeping the human spirit anchored in the machine age. Because the greatest weapon we've ever had isn't autonomy or AI, it's judgment. The ability to choose what's right, even when it's not efficient. If we forget that, then the war is already lost, because we'll have surrendered that very thing that makes us worth defending. But if we get it right, if we find a way to merge intelligence with conscience, precision with principle, then maybe this next evolution won't end in dystopia. Maybe it'll lead to a kind of warfare where fewer lives are lost, where decisions are sharper, faster, and guided by something deeper than code. That's the frontier we're headed towards. And that's why Full Spectrum Frontiers exists, to help you understand it, to question it, and to prepare for it. Now, if this episode made you think, if it gave you something new to chew on about where we're headed, then do me a favor. Take a second right now to like, share, and review the podcast. It helps get these conversations into the hands of people who actually care about the future of this country and the ethics of the power we're creating. And remember, Technology might not be evolving faster than we can. Technology might be evolving faster than we can blink. But discernment, courage, and moral clarity, those are still human domains. Let's keep them that way. I'm Bennett Tanton, and this is Full Spectrum Frontiers. Stay sharp, stay grounded, and as always, keep your eyes on the horizon.
Carry the fire through shadows and storm. Voices of yesterday guiding us on. The echoes of duty, the call we still hear. Building tomorrow with courage, not fear. Stand your ground, keep the watch through the night. Guarding tomorrow where freedom's the light. Through every trial, the truth will endure. Full spectrum frontiers, steady and sure. From fields of the past to horizons unknown, the seeds that we plant are the future we own. Stories of valor, of lessons we've learned, a legacy carried, a torch ever burned. Stand your